Dave, welcome to Paper Napkin Wisdom. Thrilled you joined me here today.
Thanks for having me. I appreciate it.
So you shared with me an interesting paper napkin that I'd love you to read out loud to everybody listening.
All right. It goes like this. It's not what you own on the outside. It's who you become on the inside that counts.
So why is that the message that you chose to share with me here today?
So my business is helping young people with their future. It's called NextStepU. We help teens with college, career, and life planning. And I think especially when you're a teenager, you're really thinking of more materialistic things. So you're thinking of, like what career you could become to make a lot of money. And maybe I'm just speaking for myself, but I do encounter a lot of teens that, want to get the big house, want to get the nice car, want to have the nice clothes, go on the nice vacations, and they're doing their career planning around that. And I'm guilty. I mean, I actually went to college to be a dentist at first. I was pre-dental, and I did an internship and realized I had no love of teeth whatsoever during that internship, and decided to change my major. And I asked myself, why the heck did I want to be a dentist? And I thought about it, and it was because my mother's cousin was a dentist, our dentist, and he had a red Porsche and a big house. And I realized that is, no reason to pick a career. And so I started getting in touch more about what I love doing anyway. What am I genuinely interested in, and sincere loves and passions, and how can I relate that to a career? And so I think that can also be related to entrepreneurs, right? So we read Inc., we read Forbes and Fortune, and we see all these success stories in these magazines and books about entrepreneurs that, made it big, and they got the huge house that's like unbelievable, and the great clothes and all the toys and the Ferrari. And then we look at that picture, and that's what we want sometimes, right? That becomes the goal. And often when you start getting some of those things, you realize what an empty celebration that is when you do start to get that stuff. And it's certainly not a piece of long-term happiness that is going to stem from the inside. Buying a Ferrari, you're going to enjoy it. I mean, I would not want one, but it's not going to be the source of my inside happiness, right? So I really reversed my thinking through my 21 years of being an entrepreneur about it's not what I amass in material goods, but really about what I amass in my internal self. Do I get up in the morning and do I just love myself? Do I love my family? Do I love my health? Am I becoming a person of value? Am I doing good things in my church, in my community? Am I helping out my family and my friends? And is my business helping people? And so that is, in my opinion, is the number one recipe for success and happiness in business, and just for your personal life and health in general. So that quote became very important to me. I wrote a book for teenagers a few years ago, and I actually put that quote on the outside of the book.
Really great, Dave, because there's always this external or internal pressure even to measure ourselves based on what everybody else is doing, right? And to measure ourselves based on what everybody's having. But really, that's a very thin veneer, isn't it? I mean, it's
right.
And it is veneer. There's really nothing of substance behind that but a bunch of glue and sawdust.
Well, yeah, and everyone has their struggle, and you see somebody where it looks great, but they're everyone is having something in their life where it's not perfect. And we have to realize that by chasing someone else's definition of success or dream is really going to lead to happiness. You have to really, I say, when I talk to teens, I do a lot of talks in high schools. I tell them, I say, I'm going to scare the living poop out of you, but I want you to put away all your technology for a little while. Phones, tablets, every screen that you can think of. Put it away. You're not going to have any contact in the outside world. And I want you to just go for a walk in the woods or go for a hike and really think about, what do you like doing anyway? What are your values? Who are you? What makes you happy? What are your innate strengths? And how do you map that to a path of happiness for yourself, especially as it relates to a career, right? Because that is going to force you to look from the inside and then create a life for you on the outside that matches your own personal values and goals and path in life. And ultimately, that is what going to make you healthy and happy, by following your own innate path, not somebody else's.
Let's talk about that for a second. I mean, in terms of you and your entrepreneurial journey, and like we all have, when we do quarterly planning, we don't have measures about how we feel about ourselves on our dashboards, right? I mean, we have numbers, we have figures, we have sales targets, we have profitability analysis, we have contribution margin, all kinds of things up on the wall. So how did you include, because it's not an either or, it's this and,
right,
from a business context. So how, as an entrepreneur, did you create, a system around measuring who you're becoming on the inside? Because you're really intentional about that. You're really intentional about being impactful.
Yeah, well, I designed my own system of self accountability. So every week I use a form where I'm kind of diagnosing myself, and I will journal about how I felt about the last week, and then what my goals are for the week ahead. So I will almost kind of check in on myself to say, these are the habits, these are the things that I need to do to be healthy and happy, right? And then I set up accountability with myself. And a lot of times too, with some of these things, I'll have accountability partners that I'll go over with, and I will check in with myself to make sure that I'm fulfilling the habits that I know I need to do in order to be a happy and healthy person, father, husband, friend, and business owner. And it's different for everybody, different. Like I just took up meditating a couple weeks ago. Thought it was crazy. Like, who has time to meditate? How do I do? Well, I got some practice. Someone taught me how to do it. I love it. And now if I don't meditate, I miss it. So that became part of my habit, working out every day. Right, family time, dinner with my family. So these are things that are very personal to me, that I need to do. It's almost like my own personal strategy plan, my own personal one-page plan, right, for success. Otherwise, I'm sure you know, and I know many entrepreneurs especially, that appear to be very successful, but behind the veneer, as you say, behind the curtain, they are very unhappy, very unhealthy, and quite often their relationships are in a mess, right? A good friend of mine, he went to go see, I'm not going to say who the CEO was, but he went to go see a famous CEO speak. Huge, successful company that everybody in the world knows, right? And it was a very powerful talk. Everything looked great. Wow, this guy's 10 out of 10, amazing. And then my friend got to talk to his assistant afterwards. And he said to the assistant, he asked him a question. He goes, hey, between you and me, what is his, how are his kids? How is his family life, right? And so the assistant said, well, off the record, not that great. And then the assistant started to walk away and came back and said, am I allowed to swear on your show? I am? Okay.
Yep.
So the person came back and said, well, between you and me, his kids are really fucked up. And then he walked away again. So that said to me, that I think a truly successful, healthy, happy entrepreneur, and just person in general, is the one that is able to be so happy with themselves on the inside, but a lot of that stems from balancing the work and the family and the health and the faith and the friends, right? You see these entrepreneurs that are uber successful in business, but in many other areas of their life, they're failures. And to me, that's not a success, right? A success stems from, making yourself realistic on the inside, holistic on the inside, authentic on the inside, so that you are able to achieve success in business, family, friendship, faith, whatever's important to you, right? But I would be a failure in my mind if I was like an Uber Fortune 100 company successful guy, but my family was a mess, right? It would be rotten on the inside because of that, right? So I'd rather be a Fortune 500,000 company, but have a very successful family at the same time.
Yeah, and I think one of the things that's really interesting is this who you become on the inside plays out in these quieter moments, right? In the quieter moments, you call them with these relationships, and how do you play out in the relationships? And when we wrote the Paper Napkin Wisdom book and did the work, it really became clear that there were these CEOs that were out there waving the flag for their companies and their success, but in their quiet moments, in their personal relationships, their life was a mess.
Right.
Or at least in our perception, their life was a mess, and maybe they were oblivious to it, which may be even worse.
Right. Yeah. Well, then at some point, I think they're going to pay the piper, and they're going to be sitting alone in a 30,000 square foot house, wondering what the hell happened.
Yeah. So Dave, let's talk about the discovery of this message for you and how you reconciled being the entrepreneur, running and growing a business, because your business is growing and it's a successful business. But so running and growing a business, but at the same time, really spending time, and I love the fact that you diagnose yourself weekly, but talk about the before you were doing that and the after, and how that's played out in your life and business success.
Yeah, I think when I first started my business, probably for the first 5 to 6 years, it was just go, 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 grow. Nothing else really took first place. It was the business. And what happened is, I think if you looked at me in the beginning stages of my business and look at me now, I actually think I look younger now. I mean, back then I looked more stressed. I was fatter, and I just didn't look healthy. I mean, my business was doing well. I was, we were, during our early years, we were, an Inc. 5,000 company 3 years in a row, a Rochester Top 100 company, et cetera, lots of awards. And so business was doing wise, but personally, I was probably on my way to some very bad health decisions and life decisions, So I kind of stepped back. I joined EO, met some really great people and saw some really great speakers. And we have a, monthly forum, if you know EO, right? And that really helped me to set priorities and straight, start thinking about other areas of my life, and give me, and also give me not only the tools, but just the concept of, as you just said, thinking these things through, some quiet time. Like this morning, right, it's the Wednesday before Christmas, all my employees are off, right, and I'm here alone, and it's, I miss my team, of course, but I'm actually finding myself just having some time to think, and it's like about 2016. And I've taken a lot of notes this morning. It's really nice just to take a deep breath and kind of plan out some thoughts. And I wasn't doing that in the beginning. So, I would say it was definitely a great maturity process.
Yeah. But taking that time, right? Intentionally taking that time to work on a life and business by design is an essential part of actually creating it. I mean, it doesn't happen by accident.
No, it's extremely intentional, and entrepreneurs especially tend to be very unfocused, tend to be ADD, visionaries, as I am, and I'm sure you are, and most of us are to some extent. And so if we don't actually have a system in place to make us accountable and to check into these things that are important to us, like a weekly, daily diagnostic of making sure that we're on track, we can easily go off the road. We can easily turn into a wild weed instead of a beautiful tree, and it's just our nature, right? So for me, I love the saying that if you want it done, schedule it. And so I schedule time to think. I schedule time to go off site and plan. And I also schedule daily time and weekly time to check in with my goals. I created this document for myself that I'll be happy to share with you that works for me, where I'm planning the week out as far as what I need to do that will turn into success for me personally on a weekly basis. And on that, I also have my yearly goals, my weekly goals, my monthly goals. But then that week, what habits or what things do I need to do in order to be completely happy, healthy person in all the areas that are important to me, not just business.
Yes. I mean, you sound like you've built a lot of discipline and structure into your day. Do you think that you have more or less freedom than you did before as a result of that structure?
Oh, completely more. I suck the juice out of every minute, and therefore I get more minutes, it seems like, right? So we have the same amount of time, obviously, but you'd be surprised at how quickly the day can go if you're not organized, right? And how little you get done. So I get so much more done by staying organized. And people say, oh, it takes a lot of time in the morning. Well, not really, especially once you get the rhythm down, the momentum down. But then I'm getting so much more done during the day that I have more time at night for things I want to do. For me, it's spending time with my family, having a nice dinner, going for walks, runs, whatever, instead of like, oh, I got all these emails now that I have to answer from 8 p.m. to midnight, blah, blah, blah. So, there's a routine will set you free. I think discipline and organization will set you free as well. Because otherwise our minds go everywhere. We check Facebook, we're on the phone, we're grabbing lunch with our friends. Before you know it, if I don't completely organize my day the night in advance, then I'm free to do whatever I want, and it usually doesn't turn into very productive things.
Yeah, and that's a really intentional piece, and I love the scheduling piece. I'd love you to share that with me, and I'll share it with our audience if you're okay with that, because I think a lot of people, when thinking about scheduling, when they think about structuring their day, they have a hard time even figuring out where to start. And examples are really helpful, right?
Yep. Yeah. So I use, I have my calendar on my computer. I use the Mac calendar. And so there are pre-scheduled things in there every day, right? So I wake up in the morning and I don't have to think. Like, I know exactly what I'm going to be doing at 5:30, right? It's reading for a half an hour, right? I know at 6:15 I want to be downstairs meditating and then working out, right? Until 7:15. So I've got everything scheduled. I know at 8 o'clock, I'm going to be at the office, right? And so I intentionally have things scheduled in my day every day. So they're ongoing events, right? Which you can set up obviously with calendars. So I try to make it so I have to not think that much. It just becomes a habit, routine. It's in there. I'm like, well, here's what I'm doing at 8 o'clock, And then of course the night before I'll review my day to see what I have scheduled, what I need to schedule, and then what else can I fit in there? Oh, look at that. I've got something free from 3 to 5. Can I schedule that I'm going to make 15 sales calls from 3 to 4:30? And I schedule it, so then I won't have to think. I know at 3 o'clock, darn it, that's what I'm doing. I'm making 15 sales calls, and then I will even schedule, this is another reoccurring thing in my calendar is I schedule sales time, right? So, and I have it preset. So I don't make appointments if I can help it during that time. That is when I'm going to make sales calls, right? I also, my name is Dave, so I have this thing that I do called Dave Cave time, right? And I schedule that, and I do that at least once a month, where I get out of I don't even show up at the office. I'm out the whole day, and I go someplace quiet, right? I go to a coffee shop that I love. I go to the library. Someplace, I have a couple different little caves that I love that are quiet. And I just focus, I think, I plan, I journal, I work on my vision, I work on planning strategy. I just take a deep breath. No phone calls, no people. I do my best to stay away from email. And of course, I don't check Facebook that day. None of that stuff. I just have a Dave Cave day. But I schedule it. So I know it's going to happen. And if I don't do that stuff, then, like I said, I'm a wild weed. I'm all over the place.
Yeah, I think that's awesome. Let me ask you, what derails you, and then real quickly, what gets you back on track when you get derailed?
Well, I think I love being ADD and loving people. People derail me. Like, I have a very tough time. Not engaging in a conversation. Someone walks in my office, somebody calls me, somebody emails me. I'm very reactive to people. I sincerely love people, right? And especially if there's a meal involved. So I'm very, I'm very easily derailed by people. What gets me back on track is, going back to my schedule, looking at my schedule, knowing I have to do these things, and thinking about the lost opportunity if I'm wasting time. Thinking about, I shot the breeze for half an hour. It was fun, but gosh, I was supposed to make 10 sales calls, and one of those sales could have led to a $25,000 sale. Was that conversation worth it? So I make myself feel guilty,
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of times too, closing my door or getting out of the office. I really have to set up almost barriers so that I'm able to focus.
Yeah, that's outstanding. Hey, Dave, our time is up here today. I'd love to have you back on the show and continue to explore this stuff. I really appreciate you joining me here today.
Thank you very much. Happy holidays.
Thanks to you too.
Have a great one.
Hey, if you liked that episode, there's a ton more like it on iTunes. Just search Paper Napkin Wisdom. Go to papernapkinwisdom.com to find the blog and pictures of all of the paper napkins. Plus, you can also follow along on Facebook. Find Paper Napkin Wisdom on Twitter at WiseNapkin. My name is Govind Jayaraman. This is Paper Napkin Wisdom. Thanks for watching. Make it a great day.